So I would
Like
buy that.
the
But yeah, I
be
would
like the
indulge
dude from Jurassic
my
Park.
hobbies. What'd you say?
So you can be like the dude from Jurassic Park, start resurrecting stuff in amber, and
I have insects in amber, actually.
really,
I do, yes.
you've already got the starting.
He's already
the starting point. Yeah.
Yep.
If only I could use my brilliance for good instead of evil.
That was good.
Well, just remember your friends here at the Freaking Awesome Podcast. These studio costs don't pay for themselves. So we'd always use a generous benefactor. So
Yeah.
I'll certainly
I'd
add you to the
invest in
list.
Boober.
Yep, or invest in Boober and send Matt lunch.
That's awesome. All right, question 12. What exotic animal would you domesticate?
I wouldn't, because I think it's unfair to the exotic animals. I'm always thinking of them before the humans. I can hear a news story about people that were killed in a plane crash or murdered by serial killers and all that, and I would think, boy, that's a shame, or that shouldn't have happened, or well, that's a tough break. But if I hear about some cruelty to an animal, that keeps me up at night. And I think that I can't imagine wanting to take something that thrives in the wild and make it bend to my desire to have it as a pet.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Sorry.
No, that's
No,
good.
no, that's cool.
That is a genuine answer. It's great.
None of them answer before,
Yep.
so that's awesome. What's your biggest pet peeve? What gets on your nerves?
Oh dear. I'll domesticate my pet peeves. I'm a stickler for grammar and punctuation. I have often thought of walking around with a black Sharpie in one pocket and a bottle of whiteout in the other to add and subtract apostrophes where they are abused on signs that I walk past. I love language, and so when I start to see it coming apart at the seams and people say, well, what's the difference in there and there, or your and your, or it's and it's, you know what I mean. There's a part of me that's sort of like a school teacher that thinks it's the end of the world as we know it if you don't care about the difference in articulating, getting your points across clearly. So that punctuation abuse gets me more upset than a lot of things.
All right.
Yeah.
Sure.
What's the last thing that you did just for yourself?
I had lunch.
All right.
I like it.
Yep.
What holiday would you erase from the calendar if you could?
Let's see. What do we have here? Let's go through February, so the Valentine's Day, Arbor Day, Day, Christmas, Easter, Passover, the Jewish holidays.
All of them?
No. I'm just sort of spinning my Rolodex of. I don't know that there's any holidays that I tend to enjoy them for the most part. New Year's Eve. I think a bunch of people getting drunk and loud simply because the year is coming to an end is silly and pointless.
You know, that's a
so
great one.
I would just go from December 30th into New Year's Day and skip New Year's Eve.
You know, it's really funny. I've never really thought too much about that, but it's true. Now, as I've gotten older, I just enjoy generally New Year's Eve at home with my loved ones.
Yes.
And we don't do anything special. In fact, we don't even generally stay up till midnight anymore. Every once in a while we do, but it's true. It's just, is it just another day to party? Maybe. Yeah.
I have a friend, and I do have a friend. I have a friend who's a writer-producer, and every year he has a gathering that peaks at 9:00 because that's midnight in New York, where a lot of us lived at some point or other. And then he'll put on videos of the Johnny Carson Tonight Show of New Year's Eve past, where they have the countdown in Times Square, and now it's 1974. And we watch that, and then we have a glass of champagne, and then we go home at like 9:30.
That's amazing.
Because we just don't see the point in staying up past midnight LA time. It's like, it's tomorrow in New York. That's good enough for us. So we watch we ring in the new year from another era, and then that's it.
I think this is what that is amazing. From now on, I think we're going to do a different era New Year's Eve party, because let me tell you, the new ones nowadays, they suck. There's no real entertainment value to it. The guests they have, or I'm just sorely disappointed. So you know what? I think that's a great idea. I think I'm going to start finding old recordings of past New Year's Eve Times Square celebrations and run those.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Yep. What do you do when you can't fall asleep?
I try to relax, because, of course, making yourself fall asleep only heightens the anxiety. Mm-hmm. But it's often that the things that bother you during the day are amplified at night, and things that were just sort of, it's annoying, become louder and bigger. But I don't get up and read or get up and watch TV. I just generally twist and turn and keep reminding myself to try to, meditate or focus and allow myself to fall asleep rather than make myself fall asleep.
Right on.
Right on. That's good. What activity makes you totally lose track of time?
Boy, I don't think I lose track of time. I think if I'm out walking, if I'm watching a movie, if I'm reading, if I'm zooming around the information superhighway, I'm rarely surprised to look up at the clock and realize that 4 hours have gone by or something like that. So I don't think I lose sight of it. The same way that I generally don't lose things. There have been very few things that I've had that I would say, I used to have that, but I lost it. I could say I threw it away, I gave it away, I sold it, I still have it. Very few things I've lost, including time.
100% agree. I never lose anything. My wife moves it, and I can't find it. Yeah.
Said every guy ever.
Yep. No, I'm sticking by that.
All right. My favorite question. What's the best thing you've ever eaten?
Best thing I've ever eaten?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like if I come out with an answer, it's elevating it to best ever. And it just seems like there's so many contenders. I'll tell you, a former girlfriend and I went to Hawaii once, and we took the long, winding Hana Highway, ending up at the 7 sacred pools, of which there are not 7 and none are sacred, but it's known as the 7 sacred pool. And I was absolutely exhausted. She hadn't told me. The first thing we did was drive up to the top of the Haleakala volcano, and then we did the Hana Highway, and then the 7 sacred pools. And I was exhausted, and it ended up pouring rain in our little rented car. And it was only later that she told me, you're not supposed to do those all the same day. You're supposed to do those in 3 different days. But I didn't want to tell you that because I wanted to do all of this. So while we are sitting in the car at the 7 sacred pools, having done this exhaustive and exhausting tour of Maui, we finally opened up the sandwiches that we had gotten from the vending machine at the hotel. And I was so famished. I can't even tell you what flavor it was. But at the time, it was the most soothing, delicious thing I'd ever eaten because I was so exhausted and frustrated and famished.
Vending machine sandwich, right
Very
on.
Cool.
I don't think anybody will ever say that.
The best thing you've ever eaten is completely subjective.
Yeah.
Yep, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Maybe we should change this question to, like Robert Wall had said. What is your favorite? Like, if you had one last meal on this earth, what would it be? Maybe that would be a better question.
Well, then I have a grim fascination with executed prisoners' last meals. Sometimes there's a contradiction. It'll be like 2 chicken fried steaks, grits, mashed potatoes and gravy, apple pie a la mode, and Diet Coke. There'll be something like that. I also can't help but think that if I were about to be killed, I wouldn't have much of an appetite. I can't imagine enjoying or feeling much like eating anything. And I was reading about, there was a British serial killer in the 1800s in Victorian England named H.H. Holmes. And I read that before he was hanged, his last meal was boiled eggs, toast, and coffee. And I thought, now there's a civilized last meal. And I have a friend of mine, and we often email back and forth about last meals that someone's executed, and we'll see what their last meal was, and then we'll say, God, how could they have that on top of that? And aren't they thinking that that's bad for your cholesterol and da-da-da-da? And so I sent him the thing about H.H. Holmes having had boiled eggs, coffee, and toast, and I said, gone are the days when that's any prisoner's last meal. Now it's always fried chicken, chicken fried steaks, French fries, mashed potatoes, grits, 2 milkshakes. It's just like they check everything on the menu, figuring, fuck them. Let them spend too much on me, even if I don't even touch it. I made them make all this for me. Anyway, there's my rant about last meals.
I have decided now that if that ever happened to me in my life, I'm going to ask for 4 bags of popcorn seeds. I'm going to fill myself full of those things so that when they light me up, my God, are they going to have something crazy to clean up.
That's very interesting. I like that. Popcorn, unpopped kernels.
Yes. Yeah. Don't regret that one, let me tell you.
Oh, jeez.
There's shooting going on in the execution chamber. No, it's Jiffy Pop.
Yep.
Tony Pop. Question 19. Have you ever had a crush on a fictional character, and if so, who?
Fictional. Okay, so it could be a movie, and it's not really the star.
Yes.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, just any character.
I could just say yes.
Yeah, that works. Yep.
What comes to mind is Mary and Something About Mary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cameron Diaz, but it wasn't a crush on Cameron Diaz. It was her character, which unfortunately, when I saw her talking on talk shows, I realized what a good actress she was because she's kind of a ditz, apparently, but she was charming and attractive in that.
Yeah. Excellent.
Oh, that's awesome. And the very last question here, this one's a doozy. What's the favorite podcast you've been on in the last 12 hours?
Well, let me see. Could it be the Freaking Awesome podcast with the two of you?
It could be. That's excellent.
Could be.
Yep.
Could be.
Well, thank you for not saying of all time, because I would have had a different answer. But...
Well, we can't win them all.
No.
Yeah.
But I love doing Gilbert Gottfried's podcast and hadn't laughed so hard.
I've heard
I did those a few times, and they're just great fun.
Yeah. You're
able to be a little kid again.
Yeah.
So.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I would allow Gilbert Gottfried to yell at me for an hour. It would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, did I pass?
You did a wonderful job, and we really appreciate you taking some time with us today. Do you have any things that you'd like to plug, or any social media that you'd like to mention?
Well, I should probably, assuming anyone remembers that several hours ago I said that I had worked for Groucho Marx. Yes. I wrote a book called Raised Eyebrows, My Years Inside Groucho's House. That's all about my experiences